Hello and welcome to the iPhone Life podcast. I'm David Averbach, CEO and publisher.
And I'm Colin Thomas, the senior instructor, filling in for Donna.
Donna is out on parental leave, so we're excited to have Colin join us today. We've got a really exciting episode. We've got a ton of news. WWDC is coming out, and we got a lot to cover. But before we get into it, let's talk about our sponsor. Today's sponsor is Incogni. Incogni is a really valuable tool in your security tool belt to keep your Apple products safe. If you're getting a lot of spam calls, it can help. It can also help mitigate the risk of identity theft and keep your data from being sold to data marketers on the dark web. Colin, I know you, as our security educator, have a lot of thoughts on this.
I do. I tried a bunch of different... So Incogni is a service that checks for data broker databases and asks them to take your information down. Mm-hmm. And since there are a fair number of laws that say that they have to comply, they can go around to a lot of different data brokers and ask them to remove their records of you. And I've tried a few of these services, and Incogni is solid. They're a really good service. They don't retain any of your information themselves, so it's not just like duplicating records, making them even more vulnerable. They actually go through and take down, I've been using it for, I guess, a little less than a year, and they've taken down 200 plus different
Yeah, I hit my 300
websites.
mark. I've been removed from 300 websites.
So there are a number of similar services, but Incogni is solid. I really think they're an excellent choice as a data removal service.
Yes. And one of the things I learned from talking to Incogni is the data on these websites, it's not just your name. It's not even just your phone number. It can have social security. It can have private health data. So there's a lot of data out there on these data broker websites, and Incogni gets that removed for you automatically. They also have launched a new service where that you can request to have your information taken down from any website on the web, which is awesome. There's obviously a few exceptions there. There's some sites that, like social media, where you can't, but for the most part, all you do is you go to their platform, you enter the website, and they will reach out and request your data get taken down, which is a really cool addition.
Yeah, they have their database of different data brokers that have information, that likely have information about you. It could be whitepages.com or it could be something like that.
That's classic.
But they also... Now, I mean, their team of lawyers has gotten very good at asking websites to take down data and forcing their hand. So you can now, if there is a website that isn't in their database, you can sick them on it.
Yes.
You can sick their lawyers on a new database. It's a pretty cool service. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, it offers a real level of privacy and protection on the web. So we partnered with them to offer 55% off. So go to iPhoneLife.com/Incogni to get this deal just for podcast listeners. All right, so we have a daily tip from you, Colin.
Yeah, today we'd like to feature one of our tip of the day emails, which is how to check if an email is valid on your iPhone. And this is a security tip, probably of all the security tips in our security course, and this might be the most day-to-day practical, useful thing to know how to do on your iPhone.
Oh, absolutely.
So when you get an email and you look at it and you think that's weird, or you have it's asking for your password, or it's asking for you to log in somewhere, and you want to know if it's legitimate, here's how to check. When you open the email in the Mail app, you want to tap on your name at the top. And it's funny because the Mail app doesn't do a very good job of telling you
really
exactly
doesn't.
who it's from. You want, at the top, it'll say to and reply to, but it doesn't say who it's from. It just has a name. If you tap the name at the top, then the name becomes from David at iPhone Life or from whoever, but then you have to actually tap the name. And then a contact card will pop up, and you can finally see what email address actually sent it. At that point, so when you first get the email, it'll say it's from Google. And you'll be like, no, it's not. And you tap on Google, and Google turns blue, and now it says from Google. And that's still not helpful. But if you tap on the blue Google, and you see, oh, it's actually from Ted whatever 375 at gmail.com.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not actually from Google.
And here's
right?
here's where this distinction is so important. You can, and any spammer out there can type in whatever they want as their name.
Right.
So they can type in their name as Google or Chase credit cards or whatever, but they cannot fake their email address.
Right.
You cannot pretend to have a different email address than you have. So that's where checking this email address is so important. And as you're saying, Apple kind of obfuscates it from you.
It takes 3 taps, and you have to know where to tap, which it really should just be front and center. Like it should be immediately exposed on every email you get, the address that it came from. But Apple does not do that. So again, when you open the email, you tap the name that it is at the top, which is going to be in black, so it doesn't look like a link. You tap that name, and then it'll say from, and the name will turn blue, but it won't be useful yet. Then you tap on the blue name, and it shows the actual email address that it's coming from.
Yes.
And that is very important for checking to make sure that an email is actually from who it is purporting to be from.
So because of my job, and I'm assuming, Cullen, you get this a lot. I get a lot of my friends and family texting me all the time saying, is this legitimate? Is this email legitimate? And, we've had a joke at the company that we want to have a service where anybody can send us a email and say, is this legitimate? And we just automatically reply, have you checked the from email? Because this is the most important thing. Just always check the from email, and you can avoid like 95% of these phishing scams. I want to take a minute to tell you about iPhone Life Insider, which is our premium educational service. It's for people who want to get the most out of their Apple devices. We teach live online courses. We have we have video, blah, blah, blah. Okay, let me start over. Donna does this part. Next up, I want to tell you about iPhone Life Insider, which is our premium educational service for people who want to master their Apple products. And we have live online classes. Cullen, you are teaching a live online class right now, correct?
Yeah. When this podcast comes out on Tuesday, it will be the next day. So Wednesday, we're doing the first session of our Organize Your Digital Life course. When we surveyed our subscribers for what they wanted to learn from us, we learned that what everyone really wanted to do was some spring cleaning. So we're doing a spring cleaning course to show you how to clean up the storage and memory on your device, clean out excess apps, take control over the fire hose of notifications, and really just refresh your iPhone for the new summer. So we'll be going through how to clean up and organize your home screen, how to get rid of too many notifications, how to make notes and reminders useful again, and really just kind of take control over your iPhone.
And what's awesome about this course is that it's one of those things that we all know that we can be better about organizing our iPhone, but knowing where to start is really daunting, and going through the process is daunting. And so we help you step by step with systems that make it easy to take back control of your iPhone.
Yeah, and just devoting the time to do it and have kind of a guided tour of the tools to use to do it.
Yes.
So we hope you'll join us for that. It starts tomorrow.
Yes. And we have a special link for you, iPhoneLife.com/podcast discount to subscribe. You get access to this course, but you get access to 10 courses per year. You also get access to our in-depth guides. We have an in-depth guide for each new operating system. So we're going to come out with an amazing guide for iOS 19. Get access to our daily video tips. Most of you, I'm guessing, are subscribers to the iPhone Life Tip of the Day, which is our free newsletter. So with that, you get an ad-free version of that newsletter that also has a step-by-step video walkthrough, which is so awesome to help you kind of just navigate it. And my favorite with that is you can put it in picture-in-picture, so you can actually have the video of the steps as you're doing the steps. We have access to our archive of all of our past content, so every course we've ever taught, as well as over 3,000 tips.
And that's a crucial point. Every live course that we do is recorded. So when you sign up, you gain access to our archive of all of our live courses, including our security and privacy course, our super popular Photos app course, our iPhone photography course, our Apple Watch course, tons of different courses on different aspects of the Apple ecosystem. All of them available on demand whenever you want.
Right away, as soon as you subscribe.
Yeah.
We have our digital magazine, And we have an ad-free version of this podcast. We record a special section for just insiders each episode. And finally, we have a Facebook community where you can ask fellow insiders as well as our experts your questions. And Cullen, you have a question you pulled from the Facebook community. Oh, before you read it though, iPhoneLife.com/podcast discount to save 30%.
So let's talk about our question of the week. The question of the week comes from our Facebook discussion community, which is a lovely community. Thanks, insiders, for joining the Facebook discussion community. I always learn something when I head in there. The question of the week is, if I activate advanced data protection on my iPhone, how will that affect being able to set up a new iPhone and use a backup that was stored on my iCloud drive? The short answer, so quick context for this question. Advanced data protection on your iPhone is a feature of an iCloud account, and anyone can turn it on even if you are not paying for an iCloud account. You have one for free with your Apple ID. So the advanced data protection feature, when it's toggled on, it makes it so that the encryption keys for the encryption of your iCloud data are stored on your Apple devices and nowhere else, which means normally Apple has a copy of them. So if you back up some photos to your iCloud and they're sent off to iCloud Photos, Apple has the keys to decrypt them, which is useful if you lose your password. Because if you lose your password and you ask Apple for a new password, they need to be able to decrypt your stuff. But if you turn on advanced data protection for iCloud, those keys only exist on your device, on your devices that are signed into your Apple ID. Apple doesn't have copies, which means if you lose your password, Apple can't help you get back into your account. But it also means that Apple can't access any of your stuff ever. Your photos, your Maps data, actually they don't store that anyway, but your notes, your reminders, all the stuff, your iPhone backups, all the stuff that's in your iCloud gets locked. So advanced data protection is kind of a cool feature. If you turn it on, it will not affect setting up a new iPhone. As part of you will need to log into your account using your existing iPhone. So this would be important. When you get a new iPhone, you would turn it on, sign into your Apple ID, and when you sign into your Apple ID, it will require confirmation on the existing iPhone. Then once you've done that, the keys will be transferred from the existing iPhone to the new one. And once it's got the keys, it will then be able to download all your iCloud account material. So you will still be able to set up new iPhones. You'll still be able to use iCloud backups to set up new iPhones. The only trick is you would not want to turn this on if you only have one Apple device.
Yes,
because you need to have a second backup. If you drop your iPhone into the ocean, you need to be sure that a second Apple device exists that has the keys to your Apple ID. Otherwise, you'd be in trouble.
So just to recap, you do recommend turning on advanced data protection so long as you have multiple Apple devices.
Yeah, I think it's a really cool feature. Now, if you're someone who frequently forgets your password and relies on Apple's reset, then don't turn this on.
And when you say password, this is a password to iCloud and
your
ID?
Your Apple, we keep calling it Apple ID, but they changed its name. It's now called the Apple account.
Oh, okay.
So if you keep forgetting your password for your Apple account, specifically that one, then this is not a good feature for you.
And that's unrelated to passcode. So if
the passcode is for your phone.
Yes.
That's the little numerical code that you type in to unlock your phone. You have to memorize that. Apple doesn't have a copy of that.
Which is very important. And my teenagers like to change it for their protection and then forget it and then freak out, and it's the worst. So please don't do that.
Yeah, it's really not good to forget your passcode for your phone. There's no recovering if you forget your passcode. There's
aware.
Nothing you can do about it. Okay.
So that is our question of the week. One more time, you can get access to all these amazing insider features at iPhoneLife.com/podcast discount, and you save 30%. We also offer a additional 10% discount for seniors, service personnel, health professionals, veterans, and so that's 40% off if you fit one of those groups. And we got an email from our listener from our last episode. If you haven't listened to it, it was a great episode worth listening to because Apple released some new products. And we asked you all what products you were interested in purchasing, and we got an email. So I'll read it out. This is from Jean. And Jean says, yes, I'm planning on purchasing a MacBook for my husband. When she said MacBook, I'm assuming that she meant MacBook Air, the new MacBook Air, because that's the one that was just released.
The M4 MacBook
Yes,
Airs.
MacBook Air M4, and dropkick his Windows PC out the door. Colin and I both very much empathized with that sentiment. Every time he turns on his PC, the antivirus internet, security tracking, blah, 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 pops up with reports alerting him about the condition of his computer. Not being computer literate, I get called in to fix the problem a lot.
Alas.
I love my MacBook Air, a Christmas present from my son. I turn it on and go straight to work. No fuss, no muss, no extraneous windows popping up. Such a breeze to work on. I figure since the DH is already familiar with his iPhone 16, the learning curve to the MacBook would not be a giant leap. Peace will reign again in our home. Amen. I added the amen.
I highly sympathize with this sentiment. I too have a Windows machine, and mine is a Windows 10 machine, so they're about to end of life Windows 10. They want us all to upgrade to Windows 11. And I've just disconnected it from the internet. No more updates for you. It's not allowed to do anything. But, just as a side note here, your Windows machine should not be constantly popping up antivirus security tracking windows. That is not a good sign.
Yes.
That is a sign that either you have a compromise and your antivirus is warning you about it, or the antivirus messages themselves are a compromise and you have some malware installed that's trying to trick you into giving away money. Windows should be not doing that.
This is true, but I do think it is a common occurrence.
Oh, it's super common.
So a couple questions for you about this before we move on. Are you of the opinion that if you're switching from, because I know a lot of you out there actually are still on PCs.
Yeah.
iPhone users using PCs, you all are welcome here. Do you find that switching to Mac is an easy learning curve if you have other Apple devices?
I think that there's enough common language visually now between the two systems that someone who's fluent in the language will not have too much trouble switching.
So if you've been using your iPhone for a long time, you're used to how Apple organizes things.
But that said, that depends on a fair amount of fluency. If
Yeah.
you're not that fluent with the visual language of operating systems, you will have trouble switching from one device to
I
another.
think it is somewhat of a learning curve. I do think that Apple and Windows have stolen one another's features enough at this point where there is a lot of similarity, but it is a learning curve. We do have a course on demand for learning how to use your MacBook. So that is something worth checking out for
we
insiders.
have a MacBook course. I think we did it a year and a half ago, so it'll be a couple of operating systems behind.
Yeah.
But it should walk you through.
fundamentals are there,
Yeah, the
though.
fundamentals are there. It should walk you through the basics of setting up a MacBook and understanding its visual language.
And as our security expert, I know the common sentiment is that Macs are more safe and secure than Windows. Is that still true, and to what degree?
Macs so Apple has an advantage in that they make all their own hardware in addition to all their own software. And for that reason, Apple products are more secure. Apple can make sure that the operating system talks to its secure enclave all the way down through the hardware stack, which is just a kind of a fancy way of saying that their devices are more mechanically more secure. But that said,
Yeah.
the advantage is mostly an advantage of market share because nothing is unhackable. If people really want to figure out how to hack something, they will. And these days, the proliferation of cryptocurrencies as being something very valuable that sits on your hard drive means that there is an incentive for hackers to go after personal devices that's never been there before. And people who collect a lot of cryptocurrency tend to prefer Macs because they have a better reputation. So we're seeing a huge uptick in the interest of hackers in getting into Macs. And the evidence of that is that there's a lot more Mac malware than there used to be. That said, it's still not as much as Windows, and Macs still are more secure. But you can't just coast on that reputation.
Interesting.
You do have to take steps to protect your Mac.
Because that was my question. For a while, the reputation was Macs don't get malware, and that is no longer true.
That is just not the case, no.
So should everyone have a
and honestly,
malware antivirus software?
I am prepared to say that at this stage in 2025, you should be running antivirus scans, anti-malware scans on your Mac.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And what is your favorite? We're really in the weeds, but I think this is valuable.
I use Malwarebytes.
Okay.
Their free tier works great as long as you remember to click the scan button. I use Malwarebytes. Now, Macs have built-in virus scanning, but any malware worth its salt has to be able to defeat that, or it simply won't function.
It's like a virus. It can't exist if it can't get past the natural defenses.
Right, so you want a second layer. And again, the second layer isn't foolproof, but it's an extra layer.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. I'm glad we covered this.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Gene, for inspiring that whole conversation.
Yeah.
And let's get into the news.
Yeah, so there's been a bunch of news. So we've got iOS 18.4 is out. Apple announced the dates for WWDC 2025. And we'll talk a little bit about the tariffs and Apple products
Yes.
and is it a good time to buy an Apple
We've got
product
a
and so
lot
on.
to cover here. It's been a crazy time in the news in general.
The news has just been, well, so I write the iPhone Life privacy and security newsletter, so just watching the news is part of my job, and it's wild to be a news watcher these days.
Yes.
Okay, so what's new with iOS 18.4? iOS 18.4, it's sort of interesting. Normally Apple releases all their features at once, kind of, and then like halfway through the year with the 0.5 update, they do a bunch more. But this year it's been different. iOS 18.2 and 3 and 4 all had big feature updates, and iOS 18.5 might not.
Yeah.
we don't know yet. But iOS 18.4 has a bunch of new features. So there's some upgrades to Apple Intelligence. There's a bunch of tools in the Photos app for sorting and managing your photos. And there's a new ambient music control.
This is cool. Tell us about this.
I like the ambient music control. It's such a niche thing, but I like it. It's niche for me. The Apple Music ambient control is a control that you can add to your control center. So you swipe down from the top right corner of your screen to get to the control center, and you edit it, and you can add a new control. There are 4 new controls, and they're for different moods of music. And they're based on your Apple Music subscription algorithm for what it's learned that you like.
Crazy. I didn't know this.
So if you're just like, I'm in the mood for a focus mix, you can just whip into the control center and tap the button, up comes the focus mix, or a relaxation mix, or an energy mix.
I think of ambient music as being
just like
sort of
tonal.
glorified. Yeah, tonal. I was going to say elevator music, but tonal is probably more PC. Is that what it is, or is it like any song?
So I've only tested this a little bit because I've only really used it for the Focus one, but the Focus one has, and so I actually don't know the answer to that. Is a better. Let me rephrase that. I don't know, because when I use it for the Focus Mix, and the Focus Mix appears to be just my Focus Mix from Apple Music, which is just tonal music.
Oh.
So I'm not sure.
Okay.
Why don't you, if you experiment with this feature, let us know if it's. Does it play music with lyrics, or is it always just like background music?
That'll be one of our questions today. Podcast at iPhoneLife.com. Let us know if you use this feature, if you like it, and what plays for you.
So iOS 18.4 has a few other key features. There's some tools for better sorting photos. They have disabled the ability of the Apple Intelligence summaries to summarize news headlines. So it'll now, in your notification summaries, it will not summarize the updates from AP News or Fox or whatever news app you use, which is good. The priority notifications uses AI, and it will identify notifications of higher priority and pop them to the top of the stacks. That's an iOS 18.4 feature. And that's about it for iOS 18.4. There's a few other little odds and ends scattered through the operating system, and we will be teaching a course on iOS 18.4.
Yes, I was just going to say that.
Next month, we'll be rolling up all the features in iOS 18.2, 3, 4, and 5 into one big update course, which will be taught by Nicholas Nayote starting next month.
And as Colin said, there have been a lot released in each of these, and so it should be an awesome course to get everybody up to date on their iPhone's operating system. All right, we have WWDC coming right up, right around the corner.
June 9 to 13, WWDC. So they will be we can expect the announcements at WWDC of their major operating system features.
Yeah, so just to back up, WWDC stands for Worldwide Developer Conference. Apple holds it every June. And for developers, it's a week-long education. For non-developers like me, it's noteworthy because they have a keynote on the first day where they announce, as Colin just said, all of the operating systems coming up to your devices in the near future.
And this is an interesting event because normally when Apple rolls out a new operating system, they roll out a ton of new features because they want to induce people to download it. But the rumors for WWDC suggest that most of the major features that Apple has been working on are AI related and may yet be a few years away. So the expectation is that there are two major rumors. One rumor, it has that WWDC will announce a bunch of AI features that we won't get that year. That'll show off stuff that we're not going to see for a couple more years. The other big announcement is that they're going to do a major revamp and redesign of the visual language of the operating system. New major redesign.
Yeah, and largest ever is what I'm reading.
They always say that though.
Yeah, but this one I've been reading rumors in a way I have not in a while.
Yeah.
Those who are longtime Apple enthusiasts will remember iOS 7 was sort of a major overhaul of the user interface of iOS. Everything kind of changed and looked different and felt different. And since then, we've had kind of minor changes, I would say.
Iterative.
And obviously, we've been doing this a while now. So it's been a while since they done a major overhaul. So it is a little bit due. Not that the UX is bad per se, but a major overhaul would be very newsworthy. But those two rumors do seem a little bit in conflict to one another, right?
Yeah, well, you can easily do a visual overhaul without it necessarily introducing a lot of new features. Yeah. You might just kind of reorganizing menus and making everything make sense in a way that it didn't before. But it's definitely last WWDC they announced the context-sensitive Siri, which still isn't out yet.
Yeah.
So they do seem to be struggling a little bit with the AI-driven features.
I do think I'm excited for both of these things. I am excited for an overhaul of the operating system. I think it's due, and I'm really excited to see what they've been working on. I'm also, this feels like a critical moment for Apple in terms of AI because AI is taking off. I mean, it's really at the center of every tech conversation. And I agree with you. Apple has struggled. They have not found their footing. I think when they announced it, they announced a lot of interesting features, but a lot of them that have come out haven't been as fully baked as we'd hoped, haven't been as useful as we'd hoped, and a lot of them haven't come out yet.
I have a pretty different perspective on it.
Okay, I know that you are less AI enthusiast than I am.
I am actually a huge fan of AI.
Okay.
In the way that Apple has historically been doing it.
Yeah.
I actually think that Apple has the best AI offerings on the market.
Wow, hot take.
Yeah, this is a completely wild minority opinion here. But I think that the way that Apple implemented their neural engine, the hardware chip for doing AI, and they did it 10 years ago. We've had a neural engine dedicated to AI on iPhones for a long time. And what it does is quiet tasks in the background that you didn't know you needed. It sorts your photos. It figures out what they're photos of so that you can search them. It helps you figure out, compares contacts and figures out which ones are duplicates. Helpful things that I actually need and are useful to me. That same neural engine that Apple Intelligence, they just rebranded all the features that we're already using, the neural engine as Apple Intelligence. That same neural engine does things like erase content from photos, like photo bombers out of photos. That's useful. People will use that, right? It is what allows them to draw a blur, a fake bokeh effect on a photo. These are all really good uses for deep learning algorithms. And I think that Apple's approach to using it was actually quite measured and smart.
So I agree with everything you said. I think Apple has been, like you said, they have these features a long time, and a lot of these are the unsung heroes of an operating system. It's what makes your iPhone feel like it just works in a way that Android doesn't always do. That being said, I think the suite of I also think, to agree with you on one more point, the way Apple approached Apple Intelligence, I completely agreed with, because it had a similar approach of like, we're going to make this a personal on your device. We're going to make this contextual to you. We're going to find ways that it's actually useful
It's
to
going
your
to be
life.
private. We're going to make sure that we preserve your privacy
Yeah.
and security in this. We're going to redesign our entire compute cloud to be able to manage your requests privately. Like, I really respect the way that Apple has gone about trying to implement this technology. And then when the AI hype wave hit with ChatGPT and all of these other large language models that you can like talk to, and Apple was like, oh, people want that. They are playing catch up on that aspect of it. But they've designed that aspect of it to preserve your privacy in a way that the others don't. And I think that's smart. I think they're going slow, but they're going steady.
It is the Apple way to wait till it's perfect and release it. So
Yeah.
I agree. I think, though, that the suite of features announced for Apple Intelligence has been largely underwhelming.
True.
The image playground
Felt very rushed.
is
The
a
opposite of their
joke,
normal
I think.
approach.
Like,
Yeah.
if you try to create images in ChatGPT, it's so mind-blowing what you can create, and then you go to the image playground and it just doesn't really work very well.
It's not for anything.
Yeah.
It makes an avatar for you. That's it.
And
That's
it
the only thing it
takes
does.
a while and didn't look good.
Yeah.
I do think that, we all have mixed feelings about having AI rewrite your sentences. I liked Apple's approach. I think that's fine, but nothing very exciting. I think the contextual Siri is going to be the most important of these, and I think they haven't gotten it right yet. They haven't released it yet.
My personal, I'll go on record as saying that I think it's their questing beast. I think they're chasing something that they're not actually going to catch.
Really? You don't think it's possible with today's technology?
I think it's probably possible, but I think that when it actually comes out, it's likely to just be a deer. Like, I don't think it's actually going to be the mythical beast that people are hoping for.
I'm sure you're right that we're placing a lot of expectations, but also I will say that ChatGPT is getting so good at understanding context,
it's true.
giving personalized answers, having it be conversational, and Siri just feels like it's in the dark ages. It like you have to use certain keyword combinations and it still misunderstands you.
Yeah.
And I think if it feels much more natural, which ChatGPT can do, I think it can get a lot closer. And ChatGPT, this is, I think, part of where your security concerns come in. It's starting to learn about me. Like, I'll ask a question and it'll be like, well, you're a vegetarian and you have a newborn. Those sort of things are scary, but they're also really helpful in answering the questions. And so I think those sort of things will be helpful in Apple, especially if they take a privacy-oriented approach.
You may very well be right. I may not have used it enough to have an accurate prediction there, but we'll find out.
Okay, we'll see. Okay,
so we've talked about what to expect from WWDC.
Yes.
A couple other news items. So Apple has launched a new 3D video editing app for video editors who want to edit 3D video footage. This is particularly interesting because the Vision Pro shoots 3D video, so do the Pro model iPhones, although the 3D effect on a Pro model iPhone isn't super impressive, but the 3D effect shot with the Vision Pro is very good. So they've created a specialized app to allow video editors to piece together that footage. That's pretty niche at this point, but still worth mentioning. I would love to edit together some 3D video footage from a Vision Pro.
Oh, yeah. I will say that when I used the Vision Pro, unfortunately, I think I was trying to pull up 3D videos that I took on my phone, and they were, it felt like it was not 3D at all.
It all depends on how it's shot. The iPhone depends on the parallax effect of having two cameras right next to each other, just like your eyes depend on the parallax effect of having two eyes right next to each other. But the cameras are much closer together than your eyes, so the 3D amount that it produces isn't going to be quite as pronounced. But you can you can hack it by using the 3D video on things that are deeper and have more parallax to begin with. So like I shot in a birthday party, didn't look all that 3D. I shot in a blizzard with big snowflakes flying by, looked super 3D, right? So if you've got stuff in a big 3D field, it will really emphasize the 3D effect. But anyway, it would be fun to shoot some 3D video on a Vision Pro and edit it together. But
definitely we're in niche territory.
That's real niche. Okay, so let's talk about, should you buy Apple products right now?
Tariffs, which is not niche. It's the thing everyone's talking about.
Everyone's favorite topic.
All right, so you have a news story here. Let's cover that, and then let's get into how Apple enthusiasts should handle tariffs.
So for context, everyone knows that the Trump administration announced some tariffs and then rolled back some of the tariffs and then re-announced some more tariffs. So it was a pretty tumultuous situation. The news article I'm highlighting is from the Times of India that suggests that some insiders suggested that Apple may have flown up to 5 airplanes full of iPhones and Macs out of India and China in the 3 days before the tariffs went into effect.
Oh, wild.
And I've seen reporting elsewhere that this may have amounted to billions of dollars worth of product, which in theory should provide Apple with a pad of product to sell at the current price points, so that the turmoil of tariffs, no tariffs, may not affect them for at least a little while. It's wild to me that 5 planes could amount to billions of dollars of product.
I had that same thought. They must have been really efficient in their packing.
Bit of a disconnect to me, so take this with a grain of salt. It was very, somebody was epic level Tetris. Some serious Tetris going on those airplanes. So the question from a practical personal standpoint really is, should we be buying should we run out and buy a new iPhone?
Yeah.
Before they suddenly skyrocket? We're talking about $3,000 iPhones now. What do you think, David?
So I think first and foremost, Colin and I are not economists.
True.
So we don't fully know. I also think I do follow a lot of economists, and they don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody has a lot of certainty on where this is going to land right now. So I think my recommendations are how to handle the uncertainty of it all.
Yeah.
Where we currently stand, which I'm sure most of you know, is that Apple rolled back a lot of the tariffs to much lower levels, but kept the tariffs very high in China. Apple produces most of their products in China. So I think there is a chance that these products will go up, and potentially by a pretty decent margin.
They're not going down.
They're definitely unlikely to go down. That being said, this is something that I think a lot of people don't realize. Tim Cook, before he was the CEO, his whole job was supply chain management, and it is the thing that put him on the map. So if anybody can figure this out, it's Tim Cook.
They're the most complex supply chain in the world and in the history of the world. They say that their products are produced in China, and that's mostly true, but they may not be assembled in China. They're assembled in India and Taiwan and Indonesia. They're assembled in different places, but the products that go into the assembly are largely produced in China. So Apple's moving production to as much as it can out of China.
Exactly.
And it actually has been for the last 8 years in the process of moving as much production as possible out of China. But it's hard to source a lot of these products. iPhones are extremely complex and full of really amazing technological pieces. And there's some specialized company, that can produce the parallax, the periscope that the lens uses, or any one of the other 100 very specialized products. So it's a pretty remarkable effort must be underway at Apple right now to try to figure out what to do about the tariff situation. But from our perspective, I think I just agree with you, David, and I'm going to reiterate, that the only really sensible lesson to take as a consumer is that we don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Is uncertainty. The lesson is that we are uncertain, which means For the moment, the prices haven't changed. If you were thinking about upgrading, you might want to run out and upgrade.
And here's the problem, though. The problem is that this is not normally the point in the cycle to buy a new iPhone, right?
Yeah.
Like, we're just talking about the new operating system, which is going to have features that run exclusively on the new phones that Apple announces in September. So, this is where I think these two things shake out. If you are somebody who is really needing a new phone and has been holding off and you're price sensitive, now might be a good moment to think about it.
Yeah.
But for most people, if you're not price sensitive and you have some risk tolerance, or you aren't urgently needing a new phone, I don't think you have to go buy a new phone. Like,
No.
if you're on an iPhone 14, iPhone 14 Pro Max, I don't think you're taking a massive risk by waiting to see how it shakes out, waiting to see what new features are released, and seeing how these tariffs shake out, especially because, you know, as Apple shifts supply chain to other places, if there is a price increase, it might be temporary. Again, we just don't know.
Yeah.
But here's where I do think you should seriously be considering a new device: your computer.
Yep.
Because, as we talked about this
agree.
episode and last episode, there was just a new computer released. So it is the right time in the cycle to buy a new computer. It has not gone up yet. And the life cycle of a computer is long. If you
Yeah.
buy a new computer right now, you can keep it for 3, 4, 5 years, right? So, and it's just expensive. If it goes up by 20%, computers are so expensive, that's a big chunk of change.
On average, most Mac owners keep their device for 5 years.
Yeah.
And these M series MacBooks, whether you get the Air or the Pro, they're solid devices. They're going to last you a nice long time. 5 years honestly feels like a conservative estimate to me. Maybe you can keep it even longer depending on what you're doing.
Especially these new M series are
They're
great.
they're great. And you can probably keep using this device for quite a long time. So it's a good time to upgrade a Mac. They will probably get more expensive in the future. Prices don't go down; they go up.
You know what, though?
But-
It did go down this year, funnily enough.
Yeah, it's true.
It was unusual, but it did. So you never know.
Yeah.
But I think in this era of the tariffs, of the uncertainty, it's unlikely to go down anytime soon. And I'm personally in this camp, actually. My stepson is going into high school next year and needs a computer. I was going to wait and buy him one next year, or, you know, say September, but I would probably buy one before that just to be safe. I will say, because I'm in this camp and I'm thinking about it, there are often sales on, especially if you don't need the M4, on MacBook Airs. So I was going to risk it just a little bit and wait till Memorial Day, and maybe I'll even wait till Amazon Prime Day in the summer and buy it on a sale day. But I don't think I'm going to wait till September, because I think, why risk it?
I had a friend ask me just this week if they should pay an extra $100 to get the M4 MacBook Air over the M3 MacBook Air. And if you happen to be in that boat, I would say the M4 is probably worth $100,
Yeah.
worth of an upgrade. I did some. I checked out the Geekbench scores for these processors, and the Mac M3 Air
Okay.
is roughly equivalent to my M1 Pro Max single core and multi-core processing.
That's wild.
Yeah.
I didn't realize.
My M1 Max, this is a $6,000
Yeah.
MacBook.
Not that long ago.
Its single core and multi-core processing are about equal to the M3, but the M3 Air doesn't have a GPU. Doesn't have any GPUs. So if you're doing any kind of graphics processing, that's a big difference. My older computer would be way better, but the M4 is better. It's still no graphics processor, but its processor is faster, single and multi-core, than my M1 Max.
So to take that to this conversation, for most people, the upgrade from the M1 to the M3 and the M4 is significant.
It's significant.
It's worth paying extra to get an M4.
If you're getting the equal kind device, if you're going from an M1
Yes.
base model to an M4 base model, you're getting a big upgrade. If you're going from an M3 to an M4, if you already own the M3, don't bother. But if you have if you have an older device and you're looking to upgrade, I would say go for that M4. That is worth it.
There you go. And the M4 is the least likely to be discounted on these sales.
Okay, so that is it for our news section. We have a few app and gear recommendations.
Before we move on from the news section, let's make this our question of the week. Are you considering buying a new Apple product because of the tariffs? Send us an email at podcast@iPhoneLife.com.
Okay, apps and gear. You want to start us off with some case recommendations?
Yeah, I decided every once in a while I wake up and I think I need new cases. We all got new phones, and I was lazy about it. We were using these cheap Amazon cases, and they're terrible. And like, I just kept hearing these crashes because we all drop our phones all day.
Oh, no, nothing will convince you to buy a new case like hearing the thud of an iPhone hitting the floor
and
repeatedly.
It happens a lot. So I have a couple case recommendations for you of what I've been particularly enjoying. I have one. If you're watching our video version of the podcast, I'll hold it up for you. This is what I'm holding up right now is the OtterBox. Let me click on this link to tell you the exact name of it. It is the OtterBox Statement series, and it's made of vegan leather. From Cactus, actually. And I'm really enjoying it. I usually go with the Nomad cases, so I usually go with actual leather, but it tends to get pretty scuffed up.
It's kind of part of its charm.
I know it's part of its charm, and I know they tell me it's part of its charm, but like sometimes it felt like it wasn't so much distressed as just damaged. And so I've been enjoying this. They're into their distressed iPhone cases. And so I've been enjoying this vegan leather case because it does not get damaged. It doesn't quite have that feel and look of leather, but I like the way it looks. It has this two-tone thing going on, which I've been enjoying. And OtterBox just has high-quality cases. In general, this experience made me appreciate the need for high-quality cases. This one's $60. You know, I like that the edge is a little bit raised, covers the bezel a little bit. The buttons are easy to press, all those good things. The other case that my partner is using is a Spec Presidio, and she has... I'm going to tell you, she has the Sunshine Daisies, and she
that's
liked
a pretty
it.
case.
It is a nice case, right? She liked it. The Presidio, in general, these two cases, OtterBox and Spec, are two of my favorites.
Yeah, those are good.
They're just high-quality cases that just fit on nicely, protect you well.
Do they have flat cases, though? That's the critical question.
Do they have lay flat cases? I will have to ask her. Now, tell me what you mean by lay flat cases?
So your phone has the camera bump, and most cases have a little rim to protect the camera bump. But that means that when you put it down on its back, it doesn't lay flat.
Gotcha.
So a lay flat case would have a rim around the outside, or maybe little corners at the edges, so that when you lay it down, it lays flat.
I'll have to get back to you on this.
This is a niche concern in case basing, but it's the thing that drives me.
I will tell you, my OtterBox does not have that. Also, I will tell you, it does not drive me crazy.
Yeah, I can tell. I think it's a niche concern, but it's my concern.
Yes, I will report back. So OtterBox was $60, Presidio's $50, so similar range. Both excellent options. Both have a wide range of styles, so some of it does come down to the styles. I will report back because the other thing that I thought was cool was there was I usually use an Apple Wallet, but I'm sort of stuck because I have the old leather version, but the new version is apparently not good and it gets scuffed up a lot. So I'm in the market for a new wallet for my iPhone, and there was one that matched my case. So I will report back on that.
You got to have the matching case.
You got to have the matching wallet case. It's essential. All right, what do you got?
I got two recommendations. One is a pair of headphones that I just fell in love with. And the other is a keyboard that I also fell in love with. So I've tested a ton of headphones, as has David.
Yes.
We kind of alternate on writing the headphones
We're both
roundups.
headphone geeks for sure.
I'm a big headphones geek, and I have many pairs of headphones. The ones that I'm about to recommend are for a specific demographic. And if you are in that demographic, then these are the ones for you.
I'm laughing because I know the demographic.
Yes, these are called the Heavies H1H. The $279, Heavies H1H. And they are for people who like their music to go heavy, as in hard rock, metal, light metal, rock and roll. if you like to turn up the volume and throw some horns, these headphones rock. They're so good. They're wireless, so they use Bluetooth. And I typically find that I don't like Bluetooth headphones as much because I can hear the audio quality difference. But with these, and the other thing that most consumer headphones affect the sound in some way. They have basically a built-in EQ, and it tends to overemphasize the bass and wash out the treble.
Beats by Dre is famous for this.
Beats by Dre are particularly
jacks up
bad.
the bass.
They just crank up the bass. The heavies do not do that.
Okay.
They have a really nice sound. I really liked them.
Which I wouldn't have expected. I would have expected it to be like very optimized EQ.
Well, they are, but it's not optimized for like dubstep. It's optimized for hard rock. And I think it's fair to say that there's metalheads actually tend to like the musicality of the music in a way that you maybe wouldn't expect. There's a lot of clarity in these headphones. They're awesome. They're also really like sturdily built with really another major thing that annoys me about most Bluetooth over-ear headphones is the controls. Because they're on your ear, you can't see the controls, so you need to be able to control them by touch. And very often the controls are not very well differentiated and are a little hard to control by touch. The heavies have big, sturdy buttons, and they've only got like 4 of them, and they're just like, they don't feel like they're going to break anytime soon. They just are, they're solid headphones. They've also got a wired option. If you don't want to use the Bluetooth, they've got Bluetooth multi-connect, so you can connect multiple devices. They seamlessly switch between different devices, and they sound great. They're not the best for audio, for like calls, if you're doing voice calls. They work for it.
I'm not one for over-ear for phone calls anyway.
I would be using my AirPods for that if I needed to. So they're awesome. Really big fan of the heavies, and I would strongly recommend for people who want to rock. The other one is the EpoMaker P75. This is a keyboard. It's a premium keyboard at a pretty reasonable price point. So I'm one of these people who tried out premium keyboards many years ago and I've never wanted to go back. I can't type on a MacBook because the keyboard is not good enough.
And when
for
you
me.
say premium keyboard, what makes keyboard premium to you?
Premium keyboards, there are a couple of features of. Obviously, when you say premium, you're expecting build quality.
Yes.
So the EpoMaker has got a titanium case. The keys are made of a plastic that is got a really nice feel to it. But the character of a premium keyboard is all in how it types, like the distance the keys travel, how much pressure it takes to push on them, and there are and ideally you should be able to swap out broken keys for different keys. So they're repairable. You can also swap out the switches for different switches if you want a different feel to your keyboard. EpoMaker P75 does all of that for $80. They're sold out on the EpoMaker website, but you can still get them from Amazon. The premium keyboard typing experience, I do a lot of writing as a journalist in my day job and as a science fiction and fantasy writer. The rest of my life, I spend a lot of time with my keyboard, and it's just that it's so satisfying. It's like the satisfaction of typing on a mechanical typewriter, right?
Yeah, the mechanical keys, they just feel different.
They just feel different. It feels nice. Yeah, it's something nice to do for your fingers. So that's the EpoMaker P75 for $79.99 at Amazon, and we'll pop that link in the show notes.
Awesome. Yeah, so I'm just going to say, we're going to put links to all this stuff in the show notes. Colin, will you link to your science fiction books in the show notes?
Yeah, I'd love
for
to.
those interested. Okay, awesome. So I think that wraps up our episode, except for insiders. We've got a special section ahead for you, so stick around if you're an insider. Otherwise, thanks so much for tuning in. Don't forget, our question of the week is, are you considering buying a new Apple product because of the tariffs? Send us an email at podcast@iPhoneLife.com.
And if you've listened this far, then do go ahead and give us a rating and a review on the iTunes, on your podcast app of choice. It really helps us out when you rate or review our podcast on whatever podcast app you're using.
Helps
if you're on
other
iTunes,
people find us.
Yeah.
And helps us keep this show free.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you very
and
much.
Insiders, stick around.
Yes.